Hey, hi Sumit, how are you?
Hey Vinay, good to see you. Very
Yeah,
fine. Thank you.
how are you doing?
Good, good, good. Just starting off with the first episode of World of Webinars.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot for taking this initiative. Yeah, it's really helping all of us. So,
I'm glad.
yeah,
Uh, I would, while we love the positive feedbacks and all the compliments, I would want you to reserve it probably towards the end of the session and pass it on directly to Sakshi.
sure,
Uh,
sure, definitely.
Sakshi is going to be sitting in the hot seat today, and I'm probably going to take a lot of my ease out time,
I
possibly. Yeah.
I hope I don't disappoint people. I hope I live up to the expectations.
Sure, sure.
One probably suggestion which I kind of always ask in to my audience is to not hold on to your questions towards the
Yeah.
end. Keep typing in your questions in the chat so that we are able to consolidate everything together, and then I can shoot out the questions as and when the time is appropriate directly to Sakshi,
Yeah.
and it's so that it just works a little better for all.
Sure, makes sense.
Krishna, are you still not able to get the audio? Okay, he's getting it now. Brilliant. Another minute and we should start. We have about
Sure.
35 people joining in. So we should be starting anytime soon now. Yeah, but I think, Sakshi, you want to start off with a brief intro, like your
Yeah.
journey, what you've done? Uh,
Sure. So welcome everyone to the case solving workshop. I'm Sakshi Agarwal. I'll be joining Bain next month, quite soon. And so I'm a 2020 MBA graduate from IIM Lucknow. I interned with Deutsche Bank for my summers, and I was the ex-coordinator of the consult club of IIM Lucknow as well. So that was a quite brief intro about me.
so one question is actually, how many hours did you spend in preparing these frameworks for your interviews?
For interviews, we had roughly around 20 to 25 days. And I guess around 8 to 10 hours daily, we were practicing a lot of cases. I went through around 50 or 60 of them to make sure that I cover all the aspects and all the types of cases that are there. So, like, the more you practice, the better you get. That's the norm about it.
So 8 to 10 hours a day, 20 to 25 days that you had.
So it wasn't exclusive 8 to 10 hours a day. First of all, what we used to do was we had our seniors and a batchmate to help us round the corner. So we used to take case lots with them. Then we used to fare out those cases to make sure that we have a more comprehensive view, that we cover the aspects that I missed, to improve upon the mistakes that I made. So also I focused on preparing a framework for myself that I'll be able to use. So taking inputs from n number of people, from n number of cases that I did, and prepare a more comprehensive and diverse framework. So especially, it also includes covering a lot of industries, especially which I'm not aware about, which do not pertain to my field. That requires a much more effort to understand an industry in depth and see what are the cost heads and how to go about it. So yeah, that's
Very
took
cool.
most of time.
And how many sleepless nights?
When you're in an MBA school, you just forget about this number of sleepless nights you spend. It just becomes quite a norm. So we got pretty much used to it.
Interesting. So yeah, opening up the evening today. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in. We have 42 participants already. We are live on Facebook as well. So in case if your friends are not able to join in here, they can probably go on to Facebook Live later on. The recording will be available to all the people who are joining in and to who are not joining as well. You want to come back to it later, feel free. Like I said, don't hold on to your questions for the end. Keep typing in your questions in the chat so that we are able to consolidate all of them together and I can throw them up. Sakshi, the stage is all yours. All the best.
Sure, great. So I'll just share my screen and open the PPT up. So for
Yeah.
you guys, yeah. Okay. So is everyone able to see the presentation?
Yeah,
Yeah, cool. So again, Welcome everyone to this case interview workshop. So what I thought, I've divided the case session into, first of all, understanding how does a typical case interview goes, not just restricted to market entry, but in general, how does a case interview look like? Then moving ahead towards the market entry cases, then we'll move ahead towards the market sizing, take few examples, and then we'll have a Q&A. We'll also be taking questions meanwhile, so that we have a better understanding. If you have any questions or you want another example or you don't understand a particular topic, you can always shoot down your questions, right? So let's just keep going. Yeah. Okay, just a second. Yeah. So to begin with, how does a typical case interview look like, and what does a consultant or an interview expects from you? So they're not looking for the perfect answers. They're just looking your approach, how structured you are in a thought process. They do not want you just shoot down the questions off guard. They want you to have a more structured and defined approach, and basically like whatever you're thinking, you're able to articulate in a better manner. So yeah, so a typical case interview generally involves two major components. One is your case problem. The second is your guesstimates, right? So moving ahead, so whenever you enter case interview process, so first of all, in an interview, you have a 3 to 4 minutes of a general conversation, which is basically it gives you a chance to build the rapport with an interviewer. The interviewer asks you questions related to your work ex, to check the fit. It's basically done to check your confidence level and to make you comfortable. So you really need to take advantage of this opportunity to make it more yourself comfortable and ease out the process, right? So the second is that they begin with a case. You are usually given a problem statement. Now, when you're given a problem statement, your first job is to identify to which type of framework does it pertain to. Is it like a profitability, or is it a market entry case, or it's an abstract? So to have an idea what does the interviewer expects from you, so that in that case, you'll be easy. It will get easy for you to find out the correct framework and then go about it, rather than just struggling in which way to proceed, right? So whenever a case is given to you, I always suggest to go by the first in principle approach when a problem statement is given. Now, what does the first principle state? Suppose I give you a problem like, my client is a washing machine manufacturer and its sales are declining. Now, your first should be to analyze each and every component of the statement. Who is the client? It manufactures washing machine. What kind of washing machines? Its sales are declining. Now you should ask a question, by what magnitude and by how much time period. So you should break the statement in bits to understand each and every problem. There will be instances that there will be certain components in a statement that you won't be able to understand. For example, if there's a problem statement that Ratan Tata saw the third party service dealing outside the world and he just wants to bring it to India. Now you don't know what is a third party service authorizer, so you want to get the hold of it, right? So you can ask the interview the question, what is a third party service authorizer? Can you please tell me about it? This is my understanding. What do you mean by that? So it helps you keep going. Also, it makes sure that you don't miss out any key component. So first principle approach really helps you to set the stage for your major case solving, right? So now this applies to each and every case that you are solving. Now, when you are through with your first principle, then you can move ahead to know more about the scoping. So now, to brief about it, how does a typical case solving work? It basically derives on 3 S. First is your scoping. Second is your structuring. Third is your summary. So we proceeded in a step-by-step basis. When we are moving towards scoping, we generally follow a OCT kind of framework. I'm just using a lot of jargons. If anyone is not comfortable, not understanding, please just shoot in the questions. So OCT stands for your objective, constraint, timeline. If I say my client wants to enter into a particular market, what would be the objective behind it? Is there any constraint that it might face due to funding or the investments, and the timeline, any specific timeline it's going to look at 6 months, because then your approach would be different. You would be majorly looking on a short-term measures. So again, it just gives out your brief picture that how do you want to take the case forward. Then when you are done with this, Next to take into forward is your CPCC framework. We're going to talk about in detail. I would just say the CPCC for now stands for your client, your product, your customer, and your competition. We'll discuss it in detail in the coming. So when you get the brief gist about the problem statement and your client, it helps you move forward. Right. So this is your set of clarifying questions, also known as scoping. You're supposed to ask these questions and the interviewer expects you to ask these questions. Right. But make sure you do not ask too many questions such that you lose track of time, because typically you only have 30 to 40 minutes of time to solve a particular case. If you spend too much time, the interviewer might get frustrated, and you'll typically be left with less time to solve your major case. So yeah, so while we're through with scoping, the next thing would be looking for your structuring approach, right? So in structuring, this is a part when you get details of, you venture into the details of the case. So when you're done with scoping, just take a minute, ask the interviewer, can I have a minute or two to structure my thoughts? This give you a better understanding. This give you a time period to think and draw your framework, right? So when you are into structuring, make sure your approach is MECE. MECE here stands for mutually exclusive and completely exhaustive. For an example would be, right, sales is equal to volume into price. So this is exclusive. There cannot be a third element to it. You can divide it further, but there cannot be a third element to it. So make sure at least 2 to 3 steps of your framework or a structure have to be MECE in your approach. So this, the consultant expects you to be MECE, because as a consultant, you cannot deep dive into everything. You have to select what you have to do. So this helps you to narrow down your focus and to develop a more, focused sort of an approach, right? Okay, so there's a question popping up. I'll answer it in a while. So yeah, so when we are done with the basic details, now we have n number of tools to help us to move ahead. It could be your value chain analysis, which is mostly used in your profitability, where you go through the cost overheads and see, like, where could, suppose there's a problem statement. A client says my costs have been increasing in the recent past, or my profits have been declining. You can venture into these cost heads to say, where does the real problem lie? Then you have a customer journey approach. You have your Porter's 5 forces, you have a pestle. But I just want to highlight one major point over here. Whenever you are using any framework or any approach, say first principle or pestle, Porter, you are never supposed to say it loud that I am going to use pestle or Porter. Never. You just have to slyly put it in that I'm going to do the macro environment analysis, but never say that you're going to do a pestle, Porter, or going by the first principle approach, because you're not supposed to do that. You just have to put things out, but in a smart and much more creative way. Right. So once we deep dive into a diagnosis, we have a framework in place, then we move ahead with our summary and we provide the recommendation as asked. So this is general case interview which it can pertain to any problem, not just market entry, right? So yeah, answering the question, what's the ideal number of questions? Now I would say it totally depends on your statement and totally depends on your judgment. If you see that your interviewer is keen on answering your questions, you can ask him more and more questions to get the info, but do not ask irrelevant questions. Ask questions which pertain to your problem statement, because the questions can be endless, right? But we need to remain focused. Suppose if I get the revenue breakup of the n number of products, I can always ask what is the profit margin or what is your revenue share. But there will be no point in asking some random question. I'm not getting the correct example. So you have to be focused. It's your call how much questions to ask, but do not spend more than, I would say, 5 minutes or more than 7 minutes. Not at all. 5 minutes should be the hard stop for you. Maximum. That is like going an upper limit. Right. So moving ahead. So these are the typical kind of case categories that we have. We have our profitability, which can be on revenue side, cost side. Then we have a market entry, which we are going to discuss, your M&A cases, your pricing, and then there could be a product launch case, your growth case, or abstract cases. These are just the various categories that I want you to know, right? So moving ahead, yeah, talking about the CPCC, because it also can be used in all the cases, almost all the cases. So yeah, so what does CPCC stands for? It's first, as we talked about, a problem formulation. If we have a sales declining, you can always ask what is the magnitude of the problem, by how much the sales have been declining, right? You can always ask, like, is the problem limited to only my company, or it's an industry-wide problem? For how long the sales have been declining? So these first principle questions are supposed to be answered. Or you can always ask, what is the objective behind entering a new market, right? Is there any timeline? All sorts of questions that we discussed. Now moving ahead towards the company. As I gave you the problem statement, my client is a washing machine manufacturer. You can always ask about the client. For how long my client has been functioning? What is the area of operations? So is it like a pan-India or an export also oriented firm? So it could be in any way. So you can always ask the business model, which is like a very crucial, especially when we're dealing with an e-commerce kind of a business case, inventory model, marketplace model. So these are the questions that you need to put in your head, and depending on the relevant industry, you need to put forward. The more you practice, the more kind of questions you get, right? Now, moving ahead towards the product, you'll always inquire about the type of the product that are available, right? What are the various SKUs of the product that you manufacture? SKUs becomes very important, especially in FMCG companies, right? And also in washing machine, in heavy OEMs also, like the kind of products you manufacture, passenger cars, sedans, hatchbacks, what kind of, so what is the revenue share? You can always ask depending upon the problem, right? So what is the USP? How are you different? Now, next could be your about the customer.
Right. I have a question at this point in time. Given that we are asking questions to the client here in terms of the revenue and client size, the customer segments, etc.
Yeah.
How many times does the client expects us, or the interviewer expects the participant to know these numbers offhand?
Since the client is an unknown person, we do not know. We just know that he's a washing machine manufacturer or a car manufacturer. I am not supposed to know like what kind of product does he manufacture. If the car manufacturer can only be a hatchback manufacturer. So this is the information I was supposed to get, like hatchback manufacturer, sedan. What kind of products do you have? Also, does the problem pertain to only single kind of product category? You can always ask this question. And if the interviewer is not ready to answer, he would say like not relevant for now, even I don't know, let's just explore. He can guide you through. So it can work either way.
Interesting. So in that case, and the reason why I'm asking you this particular question is especially for now when people are actually appearing for a lot of interviews, especially in product management, I mean, or in the design side, and if people are expected to trickle down and apply these frameworks, do you suppose your approach would change if so for example, Swiggy would come and say, let's say Air Meet comes and says that, hey, I want to take on Zoom, and I want to basically go and start a new category, or want to capture a market in Germany. How would you help me go about doing that?
Yeah.
Now that you know that it's a video conferencing tool, just like Zoom, BlueJeans, Teams, AirMeet is another product. We are doing World of Webinars. I may want to ask you the same question now that, okay, if I want to really change my entire scope of the business, then how would you want to suggest? Would you change your questions? Would you want to change the framework or the flow in which you are asking these questions? Purely because now you have a little bit of sense into what the business is.
Okay. So here I would keep my questions, my question line would be same, but I would change the language of my question. I would say, as per my understanding, my target customers should be this, or my product belongs to this segment, and I know this about the product. Should I know something more? Is there anything else do I need to know?
Okay. Makes sense.
So the outright rule over here is do not assume anything. And if you're assuming anything, just keep it out front.
Okay.
Just keep it up front. Like, this is my assumption. Like, is it right or wrong?
Okay.
So the premise over here is to keep the interview as a dialogue. It shouldn't be like a one-way communication. You have to communicate whatever you are thinking, whatever is in your mind, and then you expect the interviewer to revert back in whatever possible way he might want.
Okay. Makes sense. Sure. Thanks. Carry on.
Yeah. So then next thing comes with a customer. We would like to know what are the customer segments that we're targeting, what are the market share that we hold in each segment, or what is the revenue. Depending on the problem statement, your questions revolve around this framework, right? So when we have a customer, then we have a competitor. Now this competitor thing is really important because it helps us to get a broad understanding of the market. Like, are we the market player? How is the market? Is the market fragmented, or are there 2 or 3 major players? Especially if it's a profitability problem, you're supposed to ask this very important question: Does the problem pertain to only me, or to the whole industry? So that gives you an understanding that whether it's an internal problem, or it revolves around whole of the external environment. So it helps you build your focus area, right? So to summarize what we have discussed, so you need to ask clarifying questions about the client, industry. Scoping and segmenting is really important. Then you have to have a structured approach in answering the question. Communicate whatever you think. So that is the whole idea behind it, right?
Right. Guys, at this point in time, want to just take a quick check with all of you. Is the speed of the presentation okay? You want to have more questions coming in? Do you want to have more relevant stuff coming in pertaining to your, and if yes, then what is it that you would want to pivot the discussion for? Quickly just take 5 seconds and just quickly type it in if you feel this is good, bad, ugly. Okay, no feedback there. Let's continue.
Okay.
Oh,
good.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So now moving ahead towards the market entry case that we discussed, that's the whole agenda of this today's workshop. So so market entry framework. So I just want to put down disclaimer here. This is the framework that I used. This is not like a standard framework that we are bound to use, but these are the elements that should be there, and you can always pivot the framework as per your needs and make it more creative. But make sure that you cover all the necessary aspects, and if you find some new aspects, do cover them all. This is not like this is the thing, but you can always pivot and make it more interesting, right? So how does a market entry framework works? Suppose a company says that I want to enter into, let's take your example that I am a tech company and I want to enter into Germany. Let's see how to go about it, right? So now, firstly, I would like to know about our company. As we say, number one part would be the qualifying questions, as we discussed. In market entry, your OCT framework becomes very important to identify the motive behind entering in such a market, whether it's your diversification benefit, your market share increase, your profit increase. These kind of questions become relevant, and why do you want to enter now? Okay, these kinds of questions become important. Then second thing would be your constraints with respect to investments, and then the timeline that you are looking on. These kinds of questions help you get going and help you develop your focus, right? Then we have a CPCC approach, which will be go as per the same. Now in the CPCC, there is one element known as competition, which you can take in later on as well, because your first part is your qualifying questions. Second would be to judge the market attractiveness, right? In market attractiveness, there would be 2 parts. First would be your macro analysis, which pertains to your political, legal, which is basically your pestle. To understand, have a broad understanding, how does a country work? Is there any special issues with a particular country? For example, Germany, what are the legal regulations? How's the economy doing, right? So I have a list of questions which you can look at. So this is the list of questions. So in terms of political, what is stability of the government, outlook towards a particular industry, political scenario? Because if there are inherent risk in these, suppose if I talk about, if I want to enter, suppose like Lebanon, we all know what the situation in Lebanon. So I would like hold back my plans. So these kind of things highlight the plan. If I talk about economic agenda, how is the GDP growing? In the COVID situation, I would like slightly resist into entering in the economies which have faced the high risk, right? So also the social culture norms are very important to understand how is the demographic pattern, the gender, income, especially the religion. If I talk about India, if I want to enter suppose a meat platform in India, how does it work? Suppose because the large population is not a heavy meat eater in India, right? So these kind of things matter. You need to take into account, you need to ask questions related to that. Also the environment, then comes your technology, legal, you can go through these questions. through these statements. So you are supposed to ask. Also, one major hindrance that you might face here, your prior knowledge of things. You might feel if you're talking about China, there can be like the government, there can be an inherent assumption in your mind that the government isn't receptive. But if you feel something like that, before including it in your analysis, just say it out front. I believe that in China that there can be some FDI regulations, or the government might not be receptive to foreign players, or that you can only enter through JVs. If you have such an assumption, just keep it out front. Do not let your prior understanding hinder your current analysis. Right. So this is the thing. And once you are done with your macro analysis and everything goes fine, if there's small risk, but the client is ready to ignore them, you can always move forward, right? So after the PESTEL, you have your Porter's 5 forces. It's basically to understand a analysis of a particular industry. If I talk about the tech industry for now, right? What are the customers? How is the market changing? So when we are talking about the customers, we talk about the potential customers as per my understandings could be this. Do you want me to go through market? Do you want me to guesstimate the market size? Here, your guesstimate parts come in. You're always supposed to ask whether you want me to do the guesstimate or not, right? If the interviewer had other things in mind, he might just say, no, just skip it for now. The numbers are fine. And if he wants you to get into numbers, he would ask you to do so. Right. So you're done with your customers part. You see your customer base is good. You move ahead with your suppliers. You ask questions like, how is the supplier base? Right. How is supplier market? Is it like a monopoly, or is it fragmented? Does the supplier sign an exclusive contract? Will I be able to get hold of a supplier at cheap prices? Will I be able to import stuff, import things? So these are the questions that you need to ask, depending on your problem statement, of course. Right. Then you'll ask about your competition. Okay, there's a question. You want to ask about your competition. You can ask in the beginning also, at the time of CPC, sir, you can ask here also, right? Depending in whatever way you like, where you want to come in. Then you have your substitutes. Like, then there can be potential substitutes, the fear of substitutes. If I talk about, suppose, the dishwasher segment, we see in the COVID scenario, the dishwasher sales have boosted up because we don't have maids over here. So these kind of things you need to take into account, because this is the part where your creative skills come in. Also, you need to communicate whatever you are thinking. So the more you can think, because market entry is a case, you can think in n number of ways, you can think n number of things. The more creative you get, the more minute aspects you think of, it gives you extra brownie points. So you have to think about that. Then we talk about complement. Like I talk about the washing machine business. You can also talk about what is the, like the basically the water problem in India. How is it going? Do people have access to the relevant water? How is the how is the, like, the detergent prices in India? Things like that. You can ask all sorts of questions if you seem them to be relevant, right? If you have a question in mind, you think relevant, just communicate. You need to list down n number of things. You need to ask a lot of questions to make the interviewer understand you can think. Your thinking scope is broadened. This is the time of your creativity, as I said earlier as well. Next would be your barriers to entry, like how easy it is for anyone to enter, and like if it's a capital intensive industry, how can people enter? So the normal Porter that we do over here. Right.
One question here, given that we're putting in a lot of these information and asking questions to the client, interviewer, in your experience, a good interview practice would be to ask all the questions in one go, or just keep asking them one by one, and you have a kind of a framework, a top-down approach in the back of your mind, and keep asking them one by one so that you engage the interviewer dialogue.
Yeah. So what I suggest, whenever you have a problem, whenever deep diving, just lay down your approach up front. That first, I'm going to do a macro analysis. Then I'm going to do a micro analysis. Then I am going to define what would be my mode of entry. We'll see it forward. And how shall I go about it, right? This is my broad approach. You can always ask, do you want me to focus on each and every aspect, or shall I start with the macro analysis? If the interviewer doesn't want to do a macro analysis, he'll directly guide you towards industry. So your whole part gets skipped. So laying down an approach gives you an advantage of saving time. If you directly say that I want to start with a macro analysis, that eliminates that opportunity. कि इसको तो बस यही आता है. So laying down a plan upfront always helps. Also, another thing, whenever doing any analysis, suppose I go with a macro analysis first, I would always lay down all my points, which is political, economic, in a horizontal approach. Then I ask, do you want me to focus on a particular thing, or shall I deep down into each and every bucket?
Makes
If the
sense.
interviewer wants to guide you, he'll just put down the finger, just go into political. If he wants you to go through each and every bucket, you then write down the points. Once you get exhausted with a particular bucket, suppose I have 3-4 points in my political bucket and I get exhausted, I'll say, this is what my this is what I could think of. Is there any other thing that you would like me to consider?
Okay.
So is there any other point you are missing out? You'll get the hint that there is more thinking needs to be put in.
Okay.
More thought needs to be put in. So
Understood.
that's how it works.
Understood.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So once we are done with the industry analysis, so we get like check, our country is good, our industry is good, then we can move ahead. If our industry is not good, then the case closes over here only. Right. So yeah. I generally don't go through this B part of entry decision, because it's like you can always say that I had this in mind, but many a times interviewer just ask you to skip it off because it just consumes time and doesn't give that kind of a value, right? So you can go through. So it basically involves what kind of segment that you want to target, or how are you going to position your product. So those kind of things, right? The most important thing over here would be your market entry mode. How are you going to enter a market? It would be like an organic growth, an M&A, JV, license, or franchise. So I would suggest, in my personal opinion, it's always better to make it like a format, like a table kind of a format, and then rate the basic risk or the trigger points, and then rate them on high, mid, and low. So the better the option, you will get your answer upfront. Just list down the points that are more crucial to your analysis and which provide more value, and then you can do a weighted analysis or any kind of analysis just to give you a wholesome picture of where you should enter. But make sure whenever you are doing this, do not ignore your previous analysis. If if a macro analysis say that FDI investment should be less than 51%, then you should keep this in mind over here, that you cannot do an organic growth in such a country. So these things should be kept in mind. To never ignore your previous analysis, because they always help you moving forward. Then once your entry mode is decided, you can focus on operationalizing. You can always put down the thought, and generally the case gets over by now, because it's too much of time taking. 30 minutes or 40 minutes usually get for a case. But the important thing that you can always talk about is your risk and synergies while moving forward. What are the risks and the synergies that the company has, right? So this was majorly the market entry format. I'll want you just look through it once, so that before we move ahead to a case.
Sakshi, where does price come into the whole thing? Would you put it in an entry decision, or would you want to put it in a basic info? When you're talking about the competitor landscaping, let's say Zomato versus Uber Uber had Uber Eats. They shut that down. Then COVID happened, and then they're back into the delivery business.
Yes.
So what do you think would be going in those meeting rooms at that point in time?
Okay, so you're basically asking, like, whenever we are entering into a new business or a new product segment, when does the price call come in?
Yeah.
I guess it would be majorly in my market sizing and consumer segment, to see where does my price band lie, and see whether my existing customer segment would fit into it or not.
Okay, understood. Yeah. Thanks. You guys, any questions at this point in time you want to ask? Shall we go ahead?
When it comes to there's one question by Utsav. Any quick ways to do the break-even analysis? Any formulas you recommend to do the same? When it comes to your case practice and break-even analysis, you are usually, the interviewer will provide you with a lot of numbers, and if the interviewer doesn't, you're supposed to ask those numbers. What will be my fixed expenses? Then the general formula that we have, like the quantity that I'm expected to sell into P minus, the general break-even formula we have. There is nothing like very new about it.
Yeah, revenue is your covering
Yeah.
your cost, essentially.
Yeah,
That's
actually, taking into account your fixed expenses and market entry expenses as well.
right.
Okay, so shall I move ahead with the case?
Bhumika wants to ask a question. Where is Bhumika? Okay.
Hi, Sakshi. Yeah, is audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, it's great going on. I have one doubt. Like, it's a sort of the short scenario one. Suppose there is a data point in the
Yeah.
space. Suppose it is any product. Like, take a product of the Uber one, and suppose that the Uber drop offs at the particular point. Suppose it is at the airport. It has drop off which is more than the pickups from the particular location. So the interview wants us to get insight into the business model first, like how do we change that particular product, or it's just in time scenario thing.
Okay, so you are saying that you're given the problem statement itself that Uber has greater drop-offs than pickups.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know that shall we wanted to know the every business model behind it, because there are many business model around it. For Uber Eats is a different business model. For
Yeah.
Uber there's a Ola. So sometimes that particular business model do not strike you up like instantaneously. So whether we'll go for a just in time analysis or we will deep down, or it's this sort of the expected business model it should be following, or comparatively analysis.
See, from what I've understood from your statement, like if you're given a statement that drop-off is greater than pickup, first you would like to know what does the interviewer expect, but whether the interviewer would like to allow you to go into numbers, or he just wants a bird's eye view or like a broader approach. See, okay, agar if the interviewer says ki let's deep down and see why is this happening, then you'll go through a basic model. Then you'll say, in my understanding, this happens, but why are the drop-offs greater? Let's deep dive into it.
Yeah. Could you continue? You continue.
Yeah, like whatever thoughts or business model assumptions you have in your mind, just communicate it.
Okay, so if the interview wants you to ask about that particular product change or some technological know-how which you want to amend it, so we'll go into that particular section then. Like it's depend on that particular interview one.
Yeah, actually, yeah. See, if the focus of the interview is towards the technological know-how, then you'll ask your clarifying questions with respect to that. Right. So, what is the technology you use? How is the competitor doing differently?
Yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. So things like that. So you need to develop. So the whole point of clarifying questions is to develop a focus point. Where does the interviewer wants to take to you? So my Bain case was a plain statement, but it was all about numbers. So I had to ask in what direction should I go, right? Not upfront, obviously, but the interviewer wanted me to go into numbers. So I had to go there. It wasn't like more of on a qualitative front. So you have to understand, because the interviewer will be giving you hints. There will be slightest hint that you need to catch.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
there has to be more info to that, Bhumika, than just talking about the business scenario. That's just one use case. There would definitely be more to the use case in terms of cost or traffic or things like that.
Yeah, I believe it more to be in the side of the cost benefit analysis too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Let's
it
Thank
can.
you.
go ahead and take the other questions towards the end of it for the paucity of time. We're already at about 7:10.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, moving forward, let's do a market entry case. Yeah. Okay. So my market entry case is like, just a sec. My client is a football club owner. It's planning to enter China. Help identify whether it should enter or not. So my first instinct would be here to do my first principle analysis. I would see my client, football club owner, entering China, decision enter or not. So it's a market entry case, number one. Then what I personally used to do was I used to repeat the statement. I used to reiterate the statement to the interviewer while I'm writing it down. So just to make sure I haven't missed out anything. Also, it gives me kind of 30 seconds to think how shall I proceed. So right. So when I get this statement, I had done my first principle analysis. Now I would like to ask my OCT framework. What is my objective to enter? Why do I want to enter China only? Is there any constraint in terms of investments that shall I enter? on what is the timeline that I'm looking forward to, right? Let's say I want to enter China because it's an untapped market and I want to increase my resources. Basically, I want to diversify, right? Constraints, no as such financial constraints. Timeline, I want to enter before 6 months because in 6 months there is a Chinese league happening which I want to be a part of. So my OCT analysis is done. I get to know that within 6 months I have to enter this area in 6 months, and the market is untapped. There are not many players, foreign players entering into it. Now, what I would like to do, I want to understand about my client. What is my client up to? He's a football club owner. Like, where does he operate? Number one. My first question would be, where does my client operate currently? That would be, let's say, I would say in USA and in European markets for now. Okay. Then how long it has been in operations? If it's relevant, the interviewer will give you an answer. Otherwise, he'll say not relevant. Fair enough. Next thing could be to ask about the product. How do you earn revenue? What is the product that you are looking for, right? What are the customers pertaining to it? How is the competition like? You can ask the competition question over here or in our micro analysis, right? So let's move forward. So these are the questions. The pink one is like, hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Okay. So these are the questions asked and the answer. So it's like a case transcript between an interviewer and interviewee. So the interviewer answers, my client is based out of USA, previously participated in European Premier League and Singapore Premium League. It wants to enter China because it thinks that China market is lucrative and untapped. The major aim is to gain broadcasting rights, look for new players and earn through ticket and merchandising sales. So we got a basic CPCC over here, right? Timelines, financial constraints, no financial constraints, next 6 months that we are looking at. Now, since I got my basic premise, my next thought would be to venture into my deep dive analysis. Now I would take a moment, structure my thoughts. Okay, so now I would say, firstly, I would like to proceed towards my macro analysis and see whether we are fit, whether China is a fit country for this type of business. Then secondly, I would do my micro analysis to understand sports industry as a whole in China. Then I would look at my need gap analysis and positioning. Fourth would be my mode of entry. Then I would look at my potential risk and synergies that I can get with my existing business. That is the plan that I lay out upfront. So if the interviewer wants me to concentrate on a particular thing, it will guide me. Otherwise, I'll start with my macro analysis. Right. So this is how we go about it. Then when we do our micro analysis, we ask questions about our political, legal, those 5-6 heads that we have. So the major question I can think of is like, since it's China, the China as an economy is averse to foreign players. So like, is this the case? What is the FDI investment? In economic, I can ask, how is the country doing? What is the GDP growth rate? How is the sports industry growing? Right. Then since I'm talking about my broadcasting rights over here, in technology and infrastructure, I would definitely ask, how is the technology scenario over there? Is it like compatible with my US parts? So these are the questions that will straight up pop up in my head, and I would like list it down. Firstly, I would like horizontal, all my heads, which is political, legal, environment. If you want, you can club 1 or 2. I always used to club for political and legal for a better understanding, because you don't have too many questions and it's just create unnecessary a lot of buckets, right? So that, and then I'll start deep diving in each one by one. So let's see what are the typical questions that we can ask. It could be like, yeah, my FDI question and growth of sports industries. Also, since we are talking about US and China, one most important thing would be social culture. How is Chinese people with respect to US players, or how US market is towards Chinese players? Things like that also needs to be taken into account, right? So when done with these questions, and we are also asked that, is there any legal thing that you want me to look at? But now the interviewer tells me that there is a legal case pending against the client in China. So this is a potential risk. When I ask the interviewer, is there any other thing that shall I look at? The interviewer gives me the information from himself that there is a legal case pending, because this is the kind of thing that I'm not supposed to know. This is kind of out of the box. This is not general. So the interviewer helps me out over here, and they will, because if the thing is so far off the thought, they generally help you out, but not always. So yeah. So moving ahead, then I would say that it's a potential risk. Is the client willing to take such a risk? Is it sound good? So if the interviewer say, okay, fine, it's fine, doesn't matter, just let's proceed ahead. Then I go into my next bucket, which is my micro analysis. Then there I look at my customers, who will be my potential customers. Then I say my potential customers could be my football fan lovers who have been watching, people related to this age group, and I see that China is a booming economy with too many people in that particular age group, so I have a decent market size. Do you want me to estimate the market size? You are always supposed to ask that question, especially in this kind of scenario, market entry. If the interviewer doesn't want you to do it, it's good for you, you are saved. But then if it wants, you have to go through. So we'll discuss market sizing in the next slide, because that's a different game altogether. Now moving ahead with the suppliers, who will be my suppliers over here? My suppliers are the players over here. So whether I'll be able to get the players, how does the player bidding process works? Is it like IPL? You can always draw inferences to get a better understanding, right? Then you always ask for a competition. How is the competition like? How many players are there? They could be direct and indirect. Then again, a MECE, direct and indirect. Your direct could be your another foreign players, or indirect could be your local clubs, things like that. Then moving ahead, what are the barriers to entry and how does this proceed? So yeah. Also, when it talks about your substitutes over here, there could be like other games. Is there any other major tournament which is popular in China is happening? Or is it like at the same time or at a popular league? So these things to be taken into account. When it comes to complements, now complement would be your stadiums, your fitness coaches, your teams, whether we have that sort of thing available or not, whether we'll be able to function. So you need to ask, and how will the process work? So you put down all these questions, and if the interviewer says, no, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, then your industry analysis comes to a conclusion. And then you're always supposed to ask, am I missing something? Do you want me to look at something else? So if the interview says no, then you have completed your approach. Otherwise, if you don't ask this question, there might be a missing thread, and you might lose out on that point. So asking questions, communicating is very important, and it also helps you develop that kind of a rapport, right? So if they say that it's fine, here's the problem that the interviewer highlighted himself, that in China that there used to be synthetic grounds. In US, there are synthetic grounds, but in China, grass grounds exist. There can be a potential problem over there. Then you can always ask, like, is it like a big problem? You can always suggest recommendation, like, since the league is 6 months far, we can always practice and admit, like, is it possible? Interviewer says yes, you're fine with it, right? So just a second.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I guess this is done, and now it's estimate market size. We'll do it later on. So this was a short and crisp case of market entry that we're ready to enter. Now, if time allows, the interviewer can always ask you, how should we enter? The mode of entry that we discussed. He can also ask, what are the risks and synergies? How do you go about it? Lay me down a plan. They can also ask you lay down a plan, which always which involves like from getting your approvals to getting your players, what will be the total idea of launching a team. You can be also asked to do that. So it depends a lot on the interviewer in which direction he wants to take you and what does he expect from you, right?
Sakshi, I have a question here.
Yeah.
Let's say you want to proceed in one particular direction. You're applying MECE framework and you're taking one particular node by node by node.
Yeah.
At one point in time, you realize, oh, I kind of screwed up someplace and I want to go back.
Yeah.
Handle situations like that.
Yes. You can always, if you realize that you're out of buckets. Suppose you have completed all the buckets, and at the last you ask that, have I missed something? And the interviewer says yes. And you're like, oh God, I have explored 10 buckets. I don't know, like, where should I go back to? Whether I should go to substitutes or competitors. So you have to take a pause, relax, and then, just comprehend where you might go wrong. Then you can ask questions that you think you might have missed. Then comes a point where you just start throwing random ideas. You don't have to do that ever. Just take in a structured approach, gather your thoughts. You just admit to your mistake. Okay, I think I have left this thing. Can I know that? Even if you have make a mistake in my first principle, you can always ask, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask this question. Please, can you tell me about this? It's always good to ask rather than going by your own assumptions and then just messing up with the case.
Okay.
So you can always go back. So this is how your ideal sheet would look like, because you'll always do it on A4 size paper. You have your opening statement, your CPCC and case facts over here, and this is how your framework should look like. You can always list down too many things that are over there, because whatever you're speaking, make sure you list it down, because at the end they do check your sheet. They keep your sheet with themselves, and they do look like how broad you can think at the time of taking calls. So just make sure you write down each and everything in a nice handwriting, and it appears to be good. So that's the whole thing behind it. So any questions with respect to the case?
Guys, a chance to spot the goal now. Go for it. Oh, I see.
So there is one question. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. So first of all, the session is going quite great. Just to add on to the previous question, for example, suppose we are venturing into a particular stream. For example, let's say I am talking about demography, and I have structured my question as per the demographies. Let's say this product is sold in A demography, B demography, and C demography. Whereas the problem was not in the demography, but in the product streams. For example, let's say A product was being selling less,
Okay.
and I ventured into the demography section. Okay, I thought in China it's selling less, in US it's selling more.
Okay.
That was my perception. So how do I get back to the track with respect to that?
Okay. So the interview tells you that you said that the problem is in US, China, or say the interview says no, there is no such problem as such country wise, but over the period of time you realize that the problem is in product, and you want to say how shall I go back? That's the whole question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can always say, do you think that that I'm missing out something, or you can always start afresh. You can say, now it totally depends on your thought process, on your calm and your confidence level, right? Because most of the people get flustered in such a situation. So you have to think back, just ask for a minute, keep down your pen and think where you might have gone wrong. If you realize yourself, it's good. Otherwise you can always hint at asking for help.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Is any more questions that you have? We are about to run out of time, another 5 minutes. I see Pulkit there. Pulkit, you've handled a few cases yourself. Any tricky situations that you've possibly looked at, addressed?
No, I think this was pretty structured and pretty comprehensive in terms of what she showed. The cases that I've had is more towards product management and not generic MBA wise cases. So they are a little more towards design a solution for X, or probably like me coming from edtech background, I would pose a question something like, how would you design an edtech platform for senior like 60s 65-year-olds? So that just shows how you are some aspects of are taken, like market sizing and personas, and you empathize, is this a good enough business or not? But then they are going in a different way. But yeah, this is a very generic standardized way of looking at any kind of problem. It can be fitted into this kind of a solution. So that's pretty good. I mean, pretty comprehensively done, Sakshi.
Thank you.
Glad.
Yeah. So shall I move ahead with market sizing?
Let's do.
Okay. So moving ahead with the market sizing, whenever you are given a market size to estimate, the interviewer is not looking at the correct answer. That is the first thing you need to keep into mind, because you cannot know each and every number and each and every assumption. What they're looking at is your thought process, how you structure, what kind of filters do you take into account, how confident you are with your approach, because the guesstimates could be as abrupt as the number of cricket balls in an air at a particular minute. because they could be algebra. These are abstract ones. So these can't be even estimated. No one even knows the correct answer. But all they're looking at is your approach. How do you take into account such weird problems and put it into something interesting, right? So whenever you are given a particular problem, you can solve it through either through demand side and supply side. I'll just rush it through quick since we have paucity of time. Okay, so on the supply side, you can always take into account the problems like number of flights landing in an airport. So these kind of problems are difficult to do from a demand side point of view, but from a supply side point of view, like I have an airport which has a 10-hour window of landing flights. Each flight takes 10 minutes to land. You can make the guesstimate more complex by adding peak hours, non-peak hours. Suppose in peak hours, it takes 5 minutes, and in non-peak hours, you can have a broader window of 10 minutes. Then things like that, you can put down the filter and move forward. On the demand side, problems can be as like, calculate the number of mobile phones sold. Okay, so here in guesstimates also, your first principle works approach is very crucial, because when you're talking about calculate the number of mobile phones sold, are you talking about what kind of mobile phones? Is it like smartphone or general mobile phones? Are you talking about in a particular geography? Are you talking about in a particular year? So these things also needs to be taken into account. You need to ask those questions so that you have like a focused answer instead of just taking into account everything, right? So then we talk about the various factors that we can go by. Suppose I talk about mobile phones, we can go by what is the population, then we can talk about the rural and the urban divide, and we can talk about what is the income, age group. This is how we can proceed further, right? So no one expects you to do all the numbers. You can assume some, but there are some basic numbers that you're bound to know. Like the urban and rural, like the population of India is 130 crores. That is a basic fact you're supposed to know. The rural and urban divide is 70-30. You're bound to know that. Also, the interviewer expects you to know the numbers of your home state, of the state that you are studying in, or the country that you are living, any country that is listed on your WorkX. So these are the things that you should know, and you should prepare for a particular interview, right? So how does this process works is like, first you need to define your approach, tell, like as I mentioned in case interview as well, first lay down your approach, tell these are the 3 basic filters I'm going to use, and then move ahead. And also always ask, do you want me to change anything? Do you want me to proceed like this? This should be the case. Then state all the numbers with rational. But why do you think so that the mid-income people in India are about 20%? Why do you think so? You can say it's the number, or they can, like I talked about this random example of golf balls in the air. So there would be a lot of assumptions over there. You need to give a rationale behind all of them, right? You can apply the 80-20 rule where the minor segments, which hardly contribute 1%, 2%, can be ignored for calculation basis. You can round off the numbers, but always ask permission before doing that, because not everyone allows. So my interview, I had to calculate 2190 divided by 23. So it can go as random as that, right? So just validate your answer and see if everything is going. So this is a basic premise of guesstimate. Okay, so I'll show you a basic guesstimate. So there's a magazine publisher, and he wants to launch a new lifestyle magazine targeted to wealthy males in the US, right?
Huh?
So you're supposed to calculate what will be the market size, or what will be the supposed revenue. This is the question you want to ask, whether you want me to calculate in the numbers, or in a particular year, or the revenue. So these are the first principal questions you will supposedly ask, right? Now moving ahead, how will I go about it? Since it's targeted to wealthy males, I'll take the population, I'll divide it into males, females, ignore the males, I'll take the gender filter, then I'll take my age filter, then I'll take my income filter, and then I'll arrive at a particular number, right? So this is my total population of US, my male population. I take my age group and assume, this is where my assumption like that wealthy males in this particular age category would be of this much, 10, 10, 5, right? Now this is the total number that I arrive. I say that I'm roughly able to target 5% of the population, and suppose that each person gets 12 issues. So I'll be able to sell these many issues in a particular year. Is it fine? Any questions?
Interesting. How sacrosanct are these numbers 10, 10, and 5?
10. This is your assumption. You can always get it validated. Like, this is what I'm thinking. I assume that 20 to 40, 10% would be in the US wealthy male category. So this is my assumption, which I need to get validated.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was one, and I have another one. Shall I take it?
Yeah.
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sometimes where I face difficulties is, let's say I arrive at a number, final number, and I feel that the number is, let's say, either very big or probably very less as compared to what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Then I sometimes struggle to where do I begin from, like diagnosing where could the problem be. So how should we actually reapproach the problem then in such cases?
Okay. So see, what I do generally is, if I get a number which is quite off my benchmark and I feel about it, so I communicate that I feel that the number that I've arrived is not near what the real estimation should be like. Then I ask, do I look into a particular, particular filter or a particular band? Where did I go wrong? If the interviewer says, yes, you can look over there, or I don't know, you just find it yourself. Then I take a minute, think whether where did I go wrong? Because if the interviewer is not ready to guide you, you can only help yourself, right? So then you have to rethink the whole approach and see where did you go wrong, and they are open to it. That's why they have given you this platform.
Yeah, basically actually the problem that I usually face is I probably hesitate to ask for the time, let's say 1 minute extra time to think on my own and things like that. There's a nervousness part, or probably I think I'm taking too much of the time, so it may go wrong or things like that. So yeah, I think what you said makes sense. I should actually ask for some time and then relook at the problem.
Yeah, you should always do that. If like, even in case solving or in market sizing, you find yourself stuck, just say, give me like a minute to think, or give me 30 seconds to think. They'll always give you, because they want you to give the right answer and not just haphazardly jump into things. It shows that you're confident and you're actually thinking, not just blabbering whatever is coming in your mind.
Fair enough. Yep. Yes. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Any other question? Okay. Moving ahead. There's one more guesstimate, which is like, estimate the monthly electricity consumption in India. Now, here they have mentioned explicitly residential. If you are not asked, you're supposed to ask first principle approach, residential or commercial, right? What kind of, do you want me to calculate in units, kilowatt, or anything like that, right? So how will I go about it? This is the approach. I would say it could be divided into residential, commercial. Then you always ask, where do you want me to focus? Residential, just deep dive into it. I have my urban population, rural population, 30, 70, number of households divided by 4 for urban, divide by 6 for rural. You can always get it validated. This is my call. Are you fine with it? Do you want me to change? Right. Then you put down your income filter, low income, mid income, high income. Then these are your monthly consumption unit. This is your pure assumption, right? There's 300, 1200, 3000 units. You can get it validated. If they're fine with it, they'll move ahead, or not just, or they'll tell you that you can take the numbers to be like that, right? And then the real calculation parts comes in. You shouldn't be scared, but you should be able to calculate. Just work on some quick maths, because they do expect you to get the guesstimate answer right. That is the whole premise. Beyond the approach, you should be at least thorough with your calculations, right? So yeah.
Anyone? We can jump to the do's and don'ts.
Okay. So the basic do's and don'ts, as I've talked about earlier as well, make sure that you build a rapport. Use those initial 3-4 minutes. Make the whole discussion, whole interview discussion as a dialogue. There shouldn't be like a silent. If you're taking a minute to think, that's fine. Otherwise, you should communicate whatever you are thinking. Just lay down your approach up front, make it a dialogue. Stay structured. Do not just randomly start throwing your ideas ki ek first bucket mein dal diya, ek last bucket mein dal diya. This won't provide the real, you won't be structured in your approach. But it has to be that way, that you know what you are doing. You're not just randomly throwing ideas. Be creative. Like I said, in market entry, you can also show your creativity. You can like rename your buckets, you can club them, or you can put them in a more interesting manner up front, right? Especially your creativity comes in your abstract cases. The abstract cases can be as abstract as there is a terrorist attack in your building. How are you going to save it? Now, this the real creativity comes in. How are you going to structure that? Because there is no defined structure. You have to make sure that it is messy till 2 or 3 levels. You have to make sure that it, the real creativity that flows in. Now, as I said, communicate effectively your approach, your assumptions. If an interviewer is saying something, be receptive to it. Because that could be the worst mistake, that if a person is saying, giving you hints, but you are just, too engrossed in your own thought process, are not totally receptive. Be confident. Always there would be a closing note. Do you have any questions? Just be prepared with some questions about the organization, or it could be as random as how has been your journey, or how has been your experience, anything, because these things are important. We generally say no thank you, but these things do count, right? The major don'ts would be never force fit a framework. If there is a problem statement that might look as profitability, but it's not, do not force fit it. Just think whatever you're doing. There is not a standard framework for every case problem. You have to define your own. With practice, you start developing your own frameworks. As I said, don't waste time. If you are stuck, just move back, ask for help, or just find your own problem. Do not assume information. Do not let your biases or pre-information come into the picture and just ruin your case. Do not jump to conclusions ki ek hint mila that the answer would be this. Go through your approach, because you are getting marks for your approach, not for the right answers. Okay, I would say never shy away from numbers. If the interview is giving you numbers, try to use them. Do not force fit them, but use them. Do not show that you're hesitant of something, right? If an interviewer say that he's not happy with your solution, or the situation seems impractical, do not start defending it. Ki nahi, aisa ho sakta hai. You can do this, you can do that, because that doesn't give a good impression that you are being too, too defensive. It doesn't look good. Don't interrupt the interviewer. Just let him speak whenever he's speaking, because you might get a hint, otherwise you might not. Then don't be mechanical. Do not follow a force-fit approach. Just keep on talking. Just ये नहीं कि मैंने फटाफट से macro बना दिया, and then I'm just moving forward because I have brought a framework. That doesn't how it works. Just make it more engaging, both for the interviewer and for you. Yeah, that was from my side.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Sakshi. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I hope
I hope it was helpful.
Enjoyed it and found it helpful as well.
Yeah.
Is any closing remarks from anyone? You want to pass on your feedback, compliments, whatever to Sakshi? This is your time.
Okay, there were 1 or 2 questions. Should I take them up?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, 1 second. Okay, there is one question. I've been advised that we're not supposed to give an X or Y answer. It's the logic and the framework, how we communicate that is important. So do you recommend dealing with being nervous if you fumble over a few numbers or calculations? See, it's very easy. If there is so much of pressure on the day, you can fumble. You are a human, you can fumble, anyone can. So if you know you're fumbling, if you made a mistake, just own up to it. Oh, I'm sorry, I made this mistake, and correct it. So that shows the real you. Like you can own up to your mistakes and you can correct it instead of recklessly defending them. So you can always correct them. Elaborate market size is done. When do we ask the objective of the client with this market entry, be it revenue, profit, or anything? You can always ask the objective as the first question as well. When you're done with your first principle, you can always ask what is the objective of entering? Why do you want to enter now? It can be the first question, it can be the last question, whatever seems fit for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, guys. I think we've shot a little over the time. Thank you so much for joining us for the evening. I hope we added value to you, and we'll probably be doing a much more deep dive into guesstimation, particularly because that's one big problem. And
Yeah.
in case if you would want Sakshi to come and cover a few more structured and very specific problem statements, uh, reach out to me. You know where to reach out. Feel free to shoot out. Come onto the Facebook page as well. I'm managing that myself, so you be assured that you'll all of the feedback would get routed to the right person. Um, Thank you so much. We will have another workshop on Wednesday for with one of our HBS alums who's going to talk about who's an executive career coach, and he's going to talk about how your resumes are basically looked at, the do's and don'ts of creating your resumes, how to navigate the job market. So that just a primer, tapping into my spot of advertising a little. But thank you so much. Great having you guys. Have a good evening. All the best with your interview preparations, and feel free to reach out. We are always here to help you to give you a wow experience. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.